call this work session to order Wednesday, February 20th, 1 p.m. Let's open it up for visitor comments. One at a time. Could you come up and state your name for the record, please?
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Myrick, M-Y-R-I-C-K, and I'm here with my realtor, Jimmy Hendricks. May she
Sure.
May she join?
Yeah.
You said one at a time, she said.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
I
They're together.
apologize. We're a team. I certainly don't want to break out of order. Yes.
Thank you.
Let me know if you need me to speak any louder. So we're here today. Currently, I am in negotiations and an oral contract to buy a historic property located at 260 South 2nd, just up the hill. It is a historic property built in 1885. I hope to restore the property, renovate it, and put it on the historical register. In its present state, it is uninhabitable, and there's a collapsed sewer line that continues to be used. I'm here first to just let you know my plans and loop you into it, but I additionally would ask for your support. I had the opportunity to speak to Mayor Scholl briefly before here, and I've also had the opportunity to speak with Ms. Carlson. I appreciate your support that you have offered thus far. There has been talk about grants available. I would like to explore those possibilities. But first and foremost, I'm asking that we forbear or refrain from any enforcement on the possible code violations of the house right now, because it would significantly complicate the purchase and restoration and my ability to do so. I'm here with my realtor. I am an attorney. I, however, do not do real estate law. I'm a public defender. I hope to make this property. There's other public defenders that need offices, and we simply want to have this building restored and be used by public defenders. But my realtor here is here to explain some of the architectural significance of the home, as well as some of the complications with the purchase agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name's Jimmy. My last name's Hendricks. I basically am just going to elaborate on what she was saying. The sewer line being collapsed makes it difficult to finance a property like this, which means we can't go conventional financing. There's no possible way, which means we'll be working with private lending, hard money lending, and they would also not lend on a home that it is condemned, because there's no collateral, there's no home to lend against. So that's another reason to, hopefully work with us to continue to restore the house. We have been in discussion with a couple of sewer line companies. I also came and spoke with the permit office a couple weeks ago to talk about a new sewer line. So we have a couple of people we are working with to get a bid on running a new sewer line, which I think would benefit everybody in the city to clean that up and to make the home habitable. I think that's the major issue. Inside, the house is still beautiful, surprisingly well maintained on the interior, very high ceilings. It's like a Victorian style home. I think the major concern really is the system. Besides that, it definitely is worth restoring. I mean, I would tell Jenny if it was a bad idea to keep the house, but I think because of its historical significance and the fact that it's still beautiful on the inside, makes it worth trying to save.
Is this home in a historical district by chance?
Yes, Mr. Morton, it is. It is in the historical district.
What address is it?
It's 260 South 2nd. It's currently owned by a gentleman named Timothy, a.k.a. Rock Pizzo.
It's behind Bemis Printing on the hill there.
And have you worked with the historical district or contacted the historical committee about this?
I spoke with Ms. Carlson. So my background is I have restored homes. I grew up in a family that restored homes. I've restored 2 homes of my own, and the owner must be the person that makes it historic. So I, in my current position, cannot. Mr. Pizzo does not have the funds because it does cost money in order to complete that application. But I suppose, are you talking about the local historic preservation? Are you talking about the state, or are you talking about the federal?
The city.
I have not spoken to the city. I have spoken to the state.
It is in the historic district. It's not individually marked, but it is in the historic district.
I just think that preserving history is incredibly important.
Yeah.
It's a passion of mine.
I certainly would advise getting in contact with anyone on the historical district.
I spoke with her, and she also spoke with Jacob.
Okay.
So the ask here is kind of what's going on with the sewer over there? Do we know?
It's an old home
Yep.
built with many of the buildings across the street here.
Okay.
So in the early turn of the century
Uh-huh.
and the last century, not this century. And the lateral goes, understand roughly where this building is?
Yes.
So, okay, so
Right at
behind
the
there.
alleyway.
So the lateral goes under that parking lot and under the buildings and joins the other buildings, and somewhere in there it's crushed. And there is no public sanitary main in a close proximity to where this building is. We've had some discussions about what potential options they might have for getting reconnected on an alternate route, because where it's crushed right now, there's really, other than tearing a building apart, there's not an option to fix the existing problem.
That's a bummer.
Jacob's in the hall for historic questions.
Yeah.
In case
There's no way to re-sleeve it.
Unfortunately, no.
As far as grant opportunities, it is contributing to our historic district, which means it's eligible for some of the grant programs we have. For example, our certified local government pass-through grant, which funds our historic rehab grant. Mouthful.
Come on, say it.
And we do have a cycle coming up, and whoever the owner is, when that goes out in, I think, May, should get a letter, saying that it is, a candidate. It's a competitive grant. I think we only have one award, probably around 12.5K this year. But that's at least one thing that we have coming up.
All right, that's great news. Thank you for sharing. And I will note that although I have not seen this movie, it does attract a great deal of tourism, as Twilight was filmed at this home. So it is good for tourism, and I do think that it's a worthy candidate of preserving.
Absolutely.
Is there any other questions that you have?
No.
Okay, at a later date, I will be presenting more information in time.
Sure.
But I just wanted to disclose this information to you so that everyone was in the loop and not surprised.
So what you could do, if you want to do more formal, you could either talk to myself or John Walsh here, my city administrator, and we can put you on the agenda for a time slot. Okay?
All right, thank you.
All right, Jenny. Yep.
Al Peterson, 155 Clark Street. I'm also the chairman of Shedco.
Leah Tillotson, the owner of the Columbia Theater.
I'm here to give you a quick update on recent activities with Shedco, and they relate to the movie theater.
Nope, Kathy needs one.
From one of them.
Okay.
And you can also share. I didn't bring as many, but share them back and forth. What you have in front of you is as you know, the Oregon Main Street Revitalization Grants are open. And Shedco went through a process. We notified over 200, we sent out over 200 letters and walked the streets and handed out letters letting all the businesses along the Main Street know about this grant. Then we did receive 9 formal applications for 9 properties, which are on that score sheet. Then we went through a formal scoring process, and Shedco decided to formally submit the Oregon Main Street grant for the Columbia Theater. The grant, and Leah is going to help explain what it's all going to cover. But I have also at each end of your table, which will be coming down, 3 photographs of the Columbia Theater. One photograph is also here on your side wall, which shows an early photograph of the theater when it had a small marquee. And then the other photograph is a photograph from the 1980s, but it has the existing marquee. And the last photograph in that is a photograph of the theater when it actually had a vertical marquee. Very similar to, what's on the Schnitzer Hall. Smaller, obviously, but in that vein. So basically, Shedco is going to be presenting a grant application for the Oregon Main Street Revitalization grants for the Columbia Theater. And I'm going to let Leah explain all the stuff that is going to be applied for.
So I'm not really sure. Once I apply and I say, this is all the stuff I would love to do, I don't know if they get to kind of go in and say, well, not this and not this and not this. So I'm not so sure that even if we get it, that for sure everything I'm asking for gets done. But the marquee, those are big things. The current marquee that you see on there that looks reasonably good is actually rusted out and needs replaced. So it's looking good still, but it's at where it needs replaced. And then the vertical marquee is just one of those things. Is it necessary for the purpose of the building? No, but it's incredibly beautiful and necessary for when you come down the street and you see, ta-da, and so we're hoping that makes the list too. The other big thing on my list, which is a really big deal, is we have plans to put in a family bathroom downstairs. So instead of just having the bathrooms that are up 3 flights of stairs, the bathroom to have one family bathroom downstairs. The reason that this is such a big deal is because so many people cannot come to the theater because they can't make it up that many stairs to use the restroom. And it's particularly wrong for the fact that a lot of people that are maybe a little bit older are the ones that have had that theater in the whole life of their memories. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's been such a big deal to them, and it's now unavailable for their use. And so that is a very big deal to put the bathroom downstairs. The other stuff that we are asking for is new seating because it's desperately needed. The seats are breaking, and we have repaired them and welded them and had parts fabricated for them. We've taken rows out, so we had better parts for the seats that are left. We've done it all, and it's just at the end of its life. So we're really hoping that seats will make it onto the yes, please list. The other things is that I don't know how many of you come and use the theater. I've seen some of you there. The men's bathroom upstairs is just not okay for use in what we would consider this day and age. If you haven't been in there, just so you know, as soon as you walk in the door, which I should have brought the picture because there's some of you probably wouldn't know at all, you have a urinal right here and a sink right here. You can touch both of them at the same time. And you have to walk past them in order to get to the men's restroom stall. So I call it a one-person bathroom because I don't know anybody that would be comfortable using that with more than one person in there. So in the plans, it actually expands it a little bit and makes it just a lot kind of more of a private, nicer area for the men. And then new carpeting because it's stinky and wearing out. So some stuff like that I think will, some of this stuff is going to open us up to being able to do live entertainment. So I've done it before, and I did it once, and we had a sellout crowd, and I learned my lesson, and I didn't do it again. Because water could not make it all the way up to the restrooms, so the water stopped working in the upstairs bathrooms. It wasn't super fun, and then when you have that many seats that are just in disrepair, you just have a lot of problems that happen. So as soon as, if we can get this grant, I'm hoping that we can kind of start doing some of that stuff that I've marked off the list because the building just couldn't handle it. So not only will it help us during movie times, but I think during those kind of slow movie times, we'll get to do some other functions that will be really great. Something I learned in this process, because I've been actually kind of working on this grant for almost a year probably, in all honesty, knowing it was coming up. And I went to a conference and I learned something very interesting. Federal governments and state governments are starting to give tax dollars to people in the arts, these old historic theater buildings, other arts too. And the reason that they're doing it is that the arts produce money. When people come to a movie, they also go to dinner. They also go shopping. They do other things. And people go to movies pretty often. You know, it's not like, you know, maybe other things that we maybe don't go to the museum as often or something like that. And so they figured out that it produces a lot of money in the area that those things are in for other businesses and tax revenue. They have figured out that whatever they give these buildings, they get more in tax revenue back. So I think that it would be really great if we could get this grant. I think it'd be good not just for the theater, but for maybe kind of all the business owners along that area. So I guess why we're here is...
Exactly. We're here because we are asking for a formal letter from the city supporting Shedco's application for the Columbia Theater to get the Main Street grant. And the timing is such that we're here today because before your next council meeting, we're going to need the letter.
Okay.
Because we have to submit at the beginning of March. So we're here asking either an approval from you all to do a letter in the next week or so, or whatever, so that it can get signed so it can be part of the application package.
I'm absolutely in favor of that.
Ask for a head nod.
How about a head nod? Councilor Locke? Councilor Carlson?
Yes, it's a
Okay,
very
Lopez?
worthwhile endeavor.
Councilor Morton?
Yes.
Okay, I'll be working with Mr.
Yeah.
Walsh, I guess, in order to get that.
Yeah, and Leah, thank you for all you do for the community as well, too.
Oh, no.
And Al,
I
thank you
appreciate
both. Yeah,
Sure thing.
yep.
What is the ask for the grant?
Well, one of the issues of this grant, it's basically a $200,000 grant, and the way in which online their program works for submitting the budget, it's really, really wacky. So right now, I think the number is like $158,000.
No, I
But
just didn't finish filling it in. It's 200. And then it has a match of mine. I have to do a match of 60,000 to match with it. And I got to tell you, I worked on it this morning, and it's a little over 260 right now. So we'll just, I'm hoping for
Go
the
for the
best.
gusto, yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
There may, like I said, they may look at some of it and go, I asked for some insulation and things like that. I don't know if they'll care about that stuff. They might mark it off the list. But the list is a little big.
Well, that's a good thing when you go to apply, because they can check off what they feel is not needed, so. Yep, great.
We'll coordinate on the details of what you want to see in the letter.
All right, thanks.
Okay,
Les?
Les,
As long as we're historic.
yes.
I have props as always. So I want to talk, I'm Les Waters from the Columbia County Museum Association. I want to talk about your 130th birthday party
Yep.
next Monday. So if you haven't heard about it, I hope
I have.
everyone has.
I have.
And you'll be attending.
Yep.
So there's a program at 6, but we're going to be opening at 5:30, and we'll be there until 7. We're going to have lots of these around for people to talk about, discuss. One of those look familiar to you?
It certainly does. Came out of the top drawer of the dresser of the old farmhouse.
I've got an extra one for you if you want it. This kind of came up surprisingly fast on us, and so I just wanted to be sure that you knew about it, and I don't know what your plans are. I know you're going to speak, Mayor, and Brandon has a program on what St. Helens was like in 1889, which I think
Nice.
should be pretty interesting.
Yep.
But we'll talk about the whole history of the city going back to, originally when it was platted and stuff like that for anybody that has any questions. And we'll have a couple of other things running on the screen. And so I don't know how many people to anticipate, and that was one of the questions sort of I was hoping you might be able to give us an idea based on any input that you've had from other people, because since I spoke with Margaret this morning, it's appeared in the paper and the Spotlight called, and there's going to be a feature on Friday also about it. And so we were planning, I think, for Cake for 50.
You probably should plan for more than that.
Do you think?
I think so.
Okay. More than like a different number, like 100 or 75?
I would say 75.
Okay, we can do that.
I hope people are interested. I mean, I find it kind of fascinating. I always thought it was 1844 or 1850, and actually it wasn't. It was 18.
Well, this is incorporation, which is sort of a different
Incorporated
thing
the
than
city
the
itself,
city being
yeah.
founded, but
Yeah.
yes. And there have been sort of big celebrations, like the Diamond Jubilee was 75 years in 1964. They had a huge parade. We have home movies taken of the parade and things like that. So on again, off again, it's sort of been like a benchmark in time. So 130 isn't like one of your big ones, but again, some of us won't be around for 150.
Sure.
So I thought we should, this was Brandon Sundin, who, if you don't know Brandon, you ought to get to know him on Monday. A great,
Very well-spoken young man and very thorough.
yes.
He
So
attacks it.
So
Yes,
pretty
yes.
much he's accurate on everything.
Yep.
So if you can make it, that'd be great. And if you have any questions or suggestions of what we can do, I'd appreciate hearing it.
Is it possible the Kiwanis Parade in the summertime could take this on as a theme? Because usually they have some kind of theme of some sort.
You mean 130 years?
Yeah,
I don't see why not. And
I
we
think
can
it'd be
provide,
great.
some materials for them to put together.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
we'd
run
be
that-
happy to coordinate.
I'll run that by the Kiwanis board
Okay.
if you're interested.
No, we can certainly help. I mean, we're all volunteer group over there, and we can't, put on a parade.
It's great.
But we'd be happy to do that.
You know,
The Kiwanis certainly does, and they do a great job of it. So I could see a good collaboration going.
Even if they didn't want to, we some of us usually attend to the parade. I know I do. So maybe the city could do
Exactly.
something, just to celebrate the 130 years. It's a
Some
benchmark.
acknowledgement,
Yep,
at least,
yep.
of it, yeah. And that's what we're doing here, too, just to,
Super.
why not?
Yep.
I'd like to just add something to the previous discussions before me about historic. I noticed you asked if they checked with various historic people. No one has checked with us about that property on South Second. And we do have quite a bit of history. It's an Italianate cottage. It's very early. And so we do know some things about it. So I just would like to remind you that if you're contacted about these sort of things, we're also a resource.
Okay.
And it is on our walking tour. And we
I-
really very much
I
like
missed
to-
that because she was talking about sewer, but I did send Leah to you.
Yes, and I made a website for Leah, and I put
Awesome.
together about 40 historic photos of
Awesome.
the theater for her presentation. Great. So yeah, we're happy to help on anything historic
Awesome.
for the city.
I will let Jennifer know, or Council Carlson. Do you have her number?
Yeah.
Okay.
To check with us?
Yep.
Okay, sure, anytime, really. They can come through our website. So that's it. Any other comments or suggestions for us? So it'll be what it'll be for however many that are there,
Yep.
right? All right,
All right.
thanks.
When is that, Monday?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
This is a busy place.
It is a busy place.
I'm Carol Sweet. I'm with Envision Columbia County. And I'm here with good news instead of
Carol,
complaining about the oil trade.
Could you pull it in front of you,
Oh.
just so it'll get better? Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm here to tell you that we found out recently that before this, the Oregon legislature is a bill on railroad safety. And it's right now in front of them. And it was written a while ago by a study group, and now there are a few amendments that have been added. And we're very excited about it because it would bring us up to par with California and Washington with the safety measures that are required of railroads if they come through our community. So it seems like a very worthwhile thing. We have been working with Friends of the Gorge and other groups to try to get this bill passed, and we were told that we should deal with Senator Johnson because that's who you deal with. And there's money involved, not a lot, but DEQ will need to pay to supervise the to monitor the requests of the bill and stuff. So anyway, what we decided to do is to send her a letter thanking her for her help, even though she hasn't helped us yet, and offering her our help. And one of the things we said we would do is get the word out to everybody that it is, and please call her and your rep and Brad Witt and tell them that we're in favor of it because it adds to our safety. And it's a relatively low amount of money for the legislature, and to us it seems it's worth it for citizen safety. And we felt it was our job because we've heard so much from people who are concerned about the trains coming through and are we ready? And frankly, I don't think we really are. And so this is putting more of the onus on the railroads, the car owners, you know, everything's owned by somebody different. So we have a little chart that it brings us up to par, as I said, with Washington and Oregon. And this is the letter we sent to Senator Johnson and the chart, just for your information. And we appreciate your getting it out to your constituents and having them just give them a call and say, hey, this is one way we can make the people making the money on it responsible for our security, or some of it. So here you are. And if you have any questions, the chart is from Friends of the Gorge, from their fact sheet. And we're hoping that we'll just have a win, and it'll be one more thing. Doesn't mean that we want oil trains coming through anytime soon, but, you know, if they're going to, we might as well have a little more safety aspect.
Absolutely.
And there's some fiscal responsibility there, because I think right now the responsibility is about 15% on the entities who are making money on it. And we need it to be different, I think, because we're not making any money on it. So, that's it. Any questions?
Appreciate your study.
No? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, other visitor comments? Okay, let's get a Chamber of Commerce semi-annual report from Simon. Date. I think he was announced Simone on a soccer game one
It's
time.
always wrong. It's not that hard to get my name right. Oh. Okay, so you all have the paper in front of you, the one with our logo on the top. So just got 15 minutes. Hopefully it won't take all of that, but I just want to give you a quick snapshot of where we are as a chamber. As we kick off into the new year. So you can see on the paper the overview. We have 252 members right now, and they're bundled into 157 different accounts, which means, for example, the city would have one account. There would obviously be multiple people in it, so you can see the math there. So 157 is probably the number that we want to focus on a little bit more. We had 132 back in early about I'm going to say April of 2018. So we've seen some growth. Obviously, you know, if you're looking at the 25 additional members, it doesn't sound that impressive, but at the rate we were bleeding them, it's been. I'm happy with the number of right now, and the nice thing is our renewal rate. And in fact, I wish I brought those numbers for you. The renewal rate is almost 100%. So people who have come up for expiration have decided to renew. I threw in the Facebook followers. We had 180 when we started, or when I started back in April. So we've grown significantly from there. A lot of interaction on our page. We did transfer to a new tier membership system. And actually that should be December 3rd, 2018. Obviously a couple months ago. We've got 23 new members in our new tier. So we went from a sheer number of employees tier. We had, I think, 9 different tiers down to 5, and which allowed us to base it more on service. So before, the more employees you had, the more you would pay, which didn't seem like it made too much sense to me, at least. So now it's based on what you want out of the chamber. Some just want to be a member of the chamber at the lower tier, just so that they can, quite frankly, do their sort of civic duty, so to speak, and that's the conversation we have with them. Others want more out of it, want more access to the building, access to the services. So there's different options for them as well. So that's been a popular new tier. Starting tomorrow morning, we will have a 9-person board. Councillor Carlson is one of our board members. So we start with all and new positions as well tomorrow. Tomorrow morning we'll be voting in new president, as well as three other positions are up for change. However, with the new number that we have, 4 new people, obviously I expect some positions that weren't up annually to be filled, by those as well. So that's kind of exciting that we'll have some new blood and new ideas into the board. In terms of programming, you can see again. I won't necessarily read it out loud, but the classes we developed a new classroom into the conference room in the back of the building, so that is now set up for any type of class. It's set up actually classroom style. The St. Helens and Scappoose School District were fantastic, giving us equipment to be able to do that. So that's been a real positive for us. We do have after hours access to the building now. So you can be buzzed in. You can be, it's done through an app on the phone. Like my inner nerd took over, so we're able to let people in, let people out, without actually physically being there or handing out keys to the building. So a little bit more secure for everybody in that case. We also have a new camera system in there as well, again to add a little bit more security to the building. We're still doing our Coffee and Commerce Friday mornings, every the second and fourth Fridays. You can see I just listed U.S. Bank and United Way, the next 2 that we're doing. And then the next one down, we actually have we were seeing the same people all the time at these morning events. And in a quick sort of, I would say an informal survey to the people who weren't coming. Hey, why weren't you coming? Well, we have it at 8 o'clock on a Friday morning. That's not always positive timing for people who are running a small business here in town. So, who doesn't love a good happy hour? We decided to swap out one of the coffee mornings and replace it with a happy hour. So tomorrow, for example, I listed it there. The Port of Columbia County will be doing our second one. We just had Country Financial do one at the Best Western. The Port of Columbia County will be kicking off at 4 o'clock tomorrow, running dogs. So good little collaboration between those two, and hopefully we'll have a lot, a different clientele, maybe a little bit, different people turning up to those events. The first one was fantastic. I think we had 25, 30 people there. Really excited about that. One of the more exciting initiatives, programs, whatever you want to call it, and I've spoken to a number of you about this individually, is the potential to bring digital signage to St. Helens. So you've seen we've been working with Lamar, the billboard guys, and again, I will certainly present this in a more formal manner than I'm doing right now, at a hopefully soon to be date. But we'd like to take advantage of a partnership that we are hoping to structure with Lamar, where we would erect a digital signage, 9x24 digital signage board in the city, and allow that to obviously promote our members, promote business, promote public events, and then At the same time, it would allow the chamber to bring in some revenue, much needed revenue to the chamber. Again, it's I will certainly do a better job at presenting it when the time comes. But yeah, it's a very exciting opportunity for us to move that forward. We're certainly not going to turn this place into the Vegas Strip. Nobody needs to worry about that. But at the same time, I think this is a positive move for everybody. We do have a new logo and web presence. You can see the new logo up top. We thought everything else was hopefully moving out of the 80s, so we figured our look and feel probably should do the same. So you can see that, and then the chamber building itself. Actually, we are utilizing that. I've already talked about the classes. We've got the gift shop moving up there, or it's moved up there already. We have the visitor center open on weekends now, thanks to the city. There's a coffee cart up there, and I'm actually talking with, it's actually her business, the Cake Lady. So she will be hopefully moving up, and we thought we could use that as a hub for new business starting in. So there's an opportunity. We have, a huge building up there. Starting a business in well, not just this town, any town, is not cheap. It's not something that you can just do on a whim. So we thought, if there's an opportunity to use the space that we already have that is empty, why don't we give certain businesses or any business the opportunity to come in and utilize some of that space, maybe for a month, maybe for a couple months, and see if your idea works, and you can put perhaps some of that revenue aside to perhaps put something down or to help with the marketing. So we hope that will be something we're going to try out with the Cake Lady. And we'll see there. But you guys have all been to the building. It's a huge building with just little old me in it. So I would just welcome that.
So before you get off programming, you see you have taxes written down as one of your classes.
Oh, yeah. So I didn't really cover the taxes. All right, skimmed over them sort of deliberately. Taxes, resume writing, HR classes. So, for example, Nick Hurleman out of Scapos, one of the tax consultants, he would come in and teach new business about how to run your business from a tax perspective, how to do, or maybe there's a personal finance tax. I mean, the idea is that we've reached out to members and just said, hey, what can you teach? And again, that's some of the it's sort of the classes will. I don't want to say we'll do any class you like, but I mean, if you're able to, push a class out and you can advertise it through your business, and obviously we can provide the classroom and the building for free. What a great resource for local business to come in and get some tax. Well, in this case, get some tax advice free. So, or just for being a member. We do have, I forgot to write down on here, so we moved the This Is Us, the St. Helens, the Christmas tree presentation with Joan Youngberg, moved that up there, so that is now safely out of the rain and up in our little foyer area. We also have the Chamber Chat and Chamber Talk, our little drive around deal, and then our digital magazine. We send the digital magazine out to about 8,000 people every month, and that's been pretty exciting for us. The LEAD, Columbia County, LEAD, it stands for Leading Economic Advancement and Direction. It's as a 501c6 where we are, we can't, nobody wants to give us any money, for lack of a better phrase. So we have greater access to grants and funding to perhaps run some different programming that we can do if we were 501c3. So LEAD Columbia County is an opportunity for us to target some funding that we can perhaps provide different services and different resources to our local businesses. So if we are approved, and I'm waiting any day, the government shutdown obviously was a bit of a stumbling block. We were hoping to hear last month. But we were approved by the state. We're running it through a company that's helping us out that didn't see any issues with our application. It's a very simple application. So we will hopefully be able to give you guys an update on that sometime soon. In our events section, we have a kind of a big deal coming up on March 21st. We have our annual awards banquet. I did the math this morning. So 7,116 votes have been cast so far for the 213 nominees that we had in the 11 different categories. We're going to have it out at the fairgrounds. The tickets are $25 each, $250 for a table. We're, obviously hoping that the city will spring for a table or 5, and so we can, Matt, if we can get a decent support out of the fairgrounds, that would be fantastic. We're looking for a keynote speaker. I got a kind of an exciting email. I don't want to jinx myself. Got an exciting email this morning about a keynote speaker for the event. So hopefully I'll know that today. I'm super excited about it. So there's a teaser for you and the 5 people watching online. Then Wings and Wheels is our August 17th event. We've done it. I think this will be the 9th year that we've done it. Big news for us. We'll still do the classic cars, the antique airplanes, and the vendor booths. I believe we had 46 vendors last year. This time we're still doing our half marathon, but it's an official qualifier this year. So I know a lot of you guys are runners. What that means is the marathon time for the half marathon will actually qualify you for a San Francisco marathon or one of the more exclusive marathons. So let's say you want to run San Francisco or Hawaii or New York or Boston, you have to have an official time put in to be able to do that. Portland Marathon used to be one of them. Obviously Portland Marathon was canceled. So now having a qualified half marathon, hopefully that will bring a ton of runners. We had 40, doesn't sound like a lot, but we had 46 runners last year. We're doing almost no advertising for the run part. We have Uberthons this year pushing it for us. They're going to come out and do a detailed measurement for us because that's one of the requirements. But having the qualifier tag is huge. So hopefully that will bump our runners up. Lots of overnight stays, obviously, because the marathon starts at 7 o'clock in the morning. So, it'll bring the other, I don't want to say tourism aspect to it, but certainly some additional stays in St. Helens or Scappoose. So that's exciting. And then we added the Family 5K. So to summarize, and I just rushed through all of that. I think the chamber was in a bit of a rough state for a couple of years, year and a half. I don't think it's any surprise to anyone here. We seem to have sort of slowed that drop now, and we're kind of, I feel like we're making the kind of starting to move on the up curve now. Certainly the stuff we've heard from businesses, from people who are involved with us, from the support that we've had from the city here, from Scappoose, Vernonia, Columbia City. People seem to be excited about what we're doing now. Now we have to be able to, make sure that we're meeting everybody's expectations going forward. So it's been 9 months, 10 months. So yeah, we're excited where it's going. So
didn't prepare Simon for this, but 5 years ago when I was a chamber member, the city purchased a table at all of their awards banquets. And since I've been on this council, we've not participated in any of their awards banquets in the last 6 years. So just kind of a show of support for local business, I'd like the council to entertain the idea of sponsoring a table at their event. It's for $250 out of council funds. Since you're here telling us about it, I just would like to get feedback from the council about doing that activity.
Oh, I like that idea.
They think that when we show and support 8 people.
8 people? We're going to need 2 tables in.
I had thought that too.
Yeah,
I just did a quick bit of math. You might need 3.
Well, I just think
We
that
might
it's
need
real
3.
good to say you support
Small plates.
somebody with words, but you kind of like when you really support somebody, you show up. And I will go regardless, but I would hope that the city would.
So let's
council
definitely get
would
a table, and then
support
let's see.
sign up, get some
We'll put a sign up. Yep,
see
you
how
and a
many
guest.
spots we
yeah,
need.
Yep.
You do have a couple of people within the city that are nominated for some votes. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil anything, but yeah, it's extremely competitive at some of those votes. So yeah, that'd
You
be
have
great.
more nominations than you have members, so that shows that the public's responding to what you're doing. That's how I take that.
Yeah.
So
Well, that was deep. Slightly depressing too. Slightly depressing.
well,
But-
I mean, you'll have a lot of people there. Maybe you can round up some new members.
Yeah. Perfect.
Definitely. Matt, can you
Can we do an RSVP to see how many
Can we
people?
delegate? Yes. To
Do
you
at least
to
one
do
table,
that?
but see what the count is,
I think we need
so
a
we make
head
sure we have
nod,
seats.
right?
Right, but I don't want to leave. I mean, where do you? Is it just us and a guest? Do we include Matt? Do we include John
Why don't we just get 2 tables?
and Philip?
If there's extra room, somebody can sit down there.
Okay,
It's a public table.
We
works
sell
for me.
we sell singles
Okay,
too.
so on a head nod, are we gonna get 2 tables? Councilor Locke?
Yeah.
Councilor Carlson?
Yep.
Councilor Morton?
Yes.
Councilor Topaz? Yes. And it's a yes from me.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions?
So to our staff, there probably might be a seat available, more than likely a couple extra seats. So if you're interested, definitely put your name in there.
And then I just would add a follow-up because Simon's not on the agenda next month or between now and the event. Something that the chamber, as a board member, that we're entertaining doing this year is more of a lead up to the banquet. So then they're going to have community events like cleanup day, open up your business day, support your neighbor day leading up to the event. Kind of a community creating week. In high school, a spirit week.
Nice.
But that kind of community spirit kind of leading up to that, kind of getting everybody excited for these nominations and all the great work that's been happening in our community in the last year.
Shoot, Simon, with Jenny being on board now, we're not going to need
That's
reports from you. She's going to be reporting it all the time now.
Perfect. I love coming here though. This is great.
That is a good.
I just like having us on the same page. I want to always have that transparency, that
Mhm.
two-way conversation, so chamber members know exactly what we're doing, and we know exactly
Absolutely.
what the chamber's doing.
One to that point, and to wrap up very quickly, it's we've been doing it. Well, we've been doing it for a while. I've been here since April. I feel like we're at a place now with you guys, with the city of Scappoose as well. Same way, we have a good relationship with everybody here. We can have those types of conversations, and you guys, like I said, have been very welcoming to the ideas that we've had and supported some of the initiatives that we're doing. We hope it goes both ways, I just wanted to, wrap up by saying thank you for the continued support. I mean, it means a lot.
Thanks. Means a lot too. Both ways.
Right.
Okay. So we're going to move on to Auditor's Annual Report. Kenny with Polly Rogers and Company, PC.
Hello. So I'm not Kenny, actually. Start off with a quick introduction.
You kill Kenny?
No. He's well and good. I'm Connor Delaney. I'm the senior associate in charge of St. Helens field work for the audit. I've been working for Kenny for many years, and ever since we got this audit back when John Ellis was finance director, I've been working on it. So. So basically, I think I'll just take a few minutes to talk about the audit process and what it's meant to accomplish, and then I'll just kind of open it up for questions.
Okay.
So this was an interesting year. As far as all you guys know, the city in the 2017-18 budget process basically totally restructured the fund setup and transferred a number of funds, created some new funds, and closed some of the old funds. So it was definitely we had to be a little bit more methodical this year. And I want to thank Matt for being as patient as he can with us. We probably asked a few more questions this year than he's used to, because it just took a little bit more time. And the other thing I want to bring up is for everyone who's looking at one of the copies of the reports that I brought, you'd probably notice that it says draft. This is a final draft of the report, but it's not the final because we want to give Matt a chance to prepare his management discussion and analysis report that gets bound in with it for the final issuance. So I just would want to warn you guys, don't put this one up on the website or anything right away, but I think that'll be what you're looking at. Is as far as the opinion letter and all the financial statements, it is the final copy. Looking at the report, the most important, obviously, from the auditor's perspective, is the audit opinion letter, and that's going to be page 1 of the financial report, and that's where we talk about the audit, what the audit scope is, and our opinion on the financial statements. And the opinion we provided, good news, is an unmodified. It's called an unmodified opinion. It's clean. That's basically a clean opinion for the audit. It's the highest level of opinion that we can provide on financial statements. So that is good news. Just a little bit about the audit process. Basically, how we come to the opinion. So we come out a couple times a year. Basically, any audit is just essentially a testing of systems. So when we come out at the beginning of the year, usually in the spring sometime, we meet with all the finance staff and all the departments and ask questions, kind of make sure we're up to date on if there's been any changes since the prior year, are there any new financial issues with the city. And that's how we kind of use that information to plan our audit. And then after we do that, we test a number of transactions. We look at the bank records. We look at payroll records. We sample transactions from anything from utility billing to permits to basically any of the city's revenue sources or expenditures. So we do that, and any questions come up, then we follow up on those. And then after June, when we come out in the fall, we look at the balance sheet. So we're confirming basically the point in time, June 30th balances, the cash balances as fixed assets, the long-term debt, all that. We confirm that with the outside sources as well. So that's kind of basically, that's just a little bit about how we get to our final opinion letter. Couple, just wanted to talk, there's a few new developments this year, some of the disclosures. There was a new GASB government accounting standard implemented in 2017-18, and that's related to GASB 75. It's other post-employment benefits. And there's also, if you look at the notes to the financial statements, that's note number 6. You'll have some information on that. Basically what it is there's a new liability that the city has to show for the fact that any retiree is allowed to buy back into the city's health insurance plan if they want, prior to being eligible for Medicare. So what that does is, if they're added back to the plan, that kind of drives up the cost a little bit, because it's older people typically cost more to insure. So there's essentially an implicit subsidy that the city's providing with that. And if that law wasn't in place, basically the insurance rates would theoretically be lower. So that's a new rule this year, and the city had an actuarial evaluation for that plan. So that's where the numbers come from on that one. And then back to the restructure. If you look at page 41, I think there's a pretty good exhibit showing what the prior year fund balances were, and all the activity and all the transfers of monies between funds as of the beginning of the year, to show, okay, that was the old structure, and now here was the transfers, and here was the new structure at the beginning of the year. So that was basically, I think, what you might notice just looking at the financial statements. The structure is a little bit different because the appropriation levels were new. Department levels were a little different than they used to be. So that's one change. Let's see. And as far as audit comments, we really didn't have anything substantial. One other thing we look at, there's some Oregon minimum standards for audits. We're required to look at the adoption of the budget process, so we do that, and then we in the financial statements, we compare the actual expenditures in all the departments to what was appropriated through the initial budget. So there were a few comments. This is pretty typical at any audit. We see there's a few budget line items that went over the actual expenditures went over the initial budget, and we document that in the report. I think there was 4 instances in the general fund where that was the case, but they were very small amounts, and the fund as a whole was well within the initial appropriations. So it's not definitely by any means anything unusual. I believe that's all I had as far as findings or comments on the audit. That was, again, it was just, I want to reiterate that it was a clean audit, and the financial statements will be ready to go the issued financial statements will be ready to go very shortly. So with that, I can just kind of open it up if anyone has any questions specific to any of the schedules or statements or anything in the report.
I don't. We have a pretty good discussion come budget time, and we get to see it all and understood all the restructuring. So Matt's pretty good at explaining it to us.
Very good.
Yep. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Tell Kenny I said hi. All right.
Good afternoon.
Yep.
Does everyone have my update? I have
had
extra
a bunch
copies.
of paperwork up here. I don't think I do.
I don't.
It's on a tablet. I'm going to grab a copy.
Paper copy, so let those go round. The first item listed there is the collaboration with Columbia Community Mental Health that I'm really excited about. We met with Julia Jackson, the director of CCMH, over the holiday season and discussed issues that we were having and how we could better communicate. The goal of that also was to just find out at a basic level what services they provided, because obviously a lot of the defendants have mental health and substance abuse issues. And while I was saying you have to go and get treatment, it was like this black hole of where people were going and what treatment services were being provided. And in that conversation, we discussed that we weren't getting a lot of reports back from CCMH when people were being referred to treatment, and that when I would say at a sentencing hearing, go get your treatment, it would be, if it was a 12-month probation period, the staff would pull the file at the 11th month and to see if it was done. Well, at that point, there's not a lot of oversight of people actually following through. And so we came up with a plan to have in-house assessments done. So CCMH does walk-in clinics right now, certain days of the week, for substance abuse and mental health. And so I would refer them to that. But instead of having that done, somebody who's a dual diagnosis, has the dual diagnosis certification for both mental health and substance abuse, will have at least about 3 assessments twice a month. So it will be 2 Wednesdays a month, and that I will order the person to come to City Hall and in the Muni Court to do their substance abuse or mental health assessment. And then they come up with a treatment plan. And then they do all of their services through CCMH at their facilities. But with that, it will be a much better communication and oversight of people's treatment.
So you're able on that third assessment, and then they come into your courtroom, you're able to get a plan actually in place and judge's orders.
Yeah.
Basically is what I hear you saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so it won't be when court's in session.
Yeah.
It's a time when I'm not there, nobody's there. We'll give them a private area to do the assessment so they can, discuss obviously their needs without anyone watching them. Confidentiality obviously being the most important. But then the treatment plan should be shared with the court. And then CCMH is also committed to having monthly updates sent to us the 10th of each month with every single person who's on court-ordered treatment. And so with that, we're just able to really keep track of people and make sure they're following through with their obligations. So that's something I'm really, really excited about. We're not going to do it for DUIs at this point because those have to go through a program called Alcohol Drug Evaluation Services. It's run through Deborah Ruiz. And those are all state mandated. They are like this umbrella organization, and they refer people mostly to CCMH and Medicine Wheel, but with all the DUII requirements, that initial assessment has to go through them. But I'm hopeful that in time we can get there, because obviously we do a lot of DUII cases. The other thing we've instituted that I feel like we're having a lot of success on is the probation review hearings. So as I stated, oftentimes in the past, the court would order treatment, but then it would be at the very end of the probation we determine if they were successful. Now I'm having people come back within 3 to 6 months with proof of whatever they were supposed to do. So we're utilizing work crew, community service, the NTSI, anger management classes, and the treatment piece. So they have to actually come back. Their attorney's not there at this point. It's just a time for them to check in with me, basically, and provide me proof that they've actually done what they're supposed to do. In the last 2 court hearings we've had, I've just been astounded. Every single person has come in with their stuff, with their community service done or treatment proof, and I don't want to get too optimistic because our clientele sometimes has a hard time following through. But it was really remarkable that we had those 2 court dates. So I'm hopeful and I am somewhat optimistic that just having them know that they have to come back and report to me and have a short time frame, that they, it will be on the forefront of their mind to fulfill their obligations to the court. I'm also trying to use more of the work crew option for people who can't afford fines, who might be behind on their fines, so that they can give back to the community, and they're not penalized per se for their financial situation. I had also discussed at the last update the process of doing in-custody hearings through basically through Skype. That would reduce the time for the police officers to bring somebody who's in custody to the courtroom. That is just working out amazingly. It's been really great. We have the TV in there, and so the jail did successfully get the some type of like iPad device that they've set up in their room. They have a fax machine behind them. So I do arraignments there. The defense attorneys have been great, and they will go and do a hearing there, plea and sentencing. Really, we can do any type of hearing that we need to through the jail. And so I would hope the chief would agree that this impact on the police department has been significantly reduced. So that's going really well. There is still a pretty significant backlog. At this point, I can't blame it on the prosecutor, the former prosecutor, not Mr. Erskine. At this point, it's a court staffing issue. But Ms. Payne and Ms. Messenger have been working very, very hard getting things back on track and going through boxes of things. And I'm hopeful that by the time I've been here a year, things will be corrected and the cases will be in a really good position. So there's also a number of trial settings, and if you look at the trial docket, you might be a little shocked. But I do not expect those to all go to trial. A lot of people with the appointment of attorneys are reviewing their cases, which is a good thing, and have access to the police reports, and I think have a better conversation and understanding of how the criminal system works, and are really just better represented. And so set cases for trial, and then as things progress, realize maybe that's not a good idea. And so a lot of them plea right before the trial. So while we have a lot set, I do not expect all of them to go. So the goals, I think, if there are any questions about what's been going on, I can talk about our goals for the next year. Any questions so far?
I'm curious, how many trials do you have set back?
I believe there's 12. Yeah. But we just had two that, at least one or two that didn't end up going. One was I think it was a domestic violence case, wasn't it? Yeah, which those oftentimes are set but don't go because victims, unfortunately, recant and yeah, that's up through June. So it's almost every Friday we have one, and the jury getting summons for the jurors. That's a whole new process that we realized. The juror summons. I'm not confident that the pool that we had been updated for. We just don't know when it had been updated since maybe 2015, and so Ms. Payne just this morning called the city, I think the county, someone at the county, and got a whole new list. And so we're kind of revamping how we send out the summons and trying to figure out how best to do that.
Sure.
So
I really like that you're using all the resources that you can at your fingertips. So
yeah.
I think that's
a lot of it for me is just learning what resources are out there too for the county. And so we're kind of really trying to figure that out. So, so obviously the main goal is to get through the backlog. And also we're looking at job descriptions and how best to avoid the issues the court had in the future, and staffing and how to staff the court appropriately. So that'll be worked on in the next few months. I'd also really like you all to meet the defense attorneys. We have a great group, and I really consider the defense attorneys much a part of our team as Mr. Erskine or Ms. Payne, because it's really not just, the state is represented by Mr. Erskine, but the defense, the defendants, who are obviously the other party there, are represented as well. We have Lucy Heil, Jennifer Myrick, who's also has just moved to the city and is doing work in circuit court, and Stephen Flynn, and I think one other, Mr. Root, who's also doing work in circuit court, will likely come on board as well. But I think it'd be great for you guys to just have interaction with them, and I'd encourage you all to come and pay us a visit, and you can see how it all goes, and you can see them in action as well. But I'll talk to Kathy and Matt about maybe bringing them in for another council meeting just for a brief hello.
Yep.
Electronic citations, I'm still going to make that push here in the next few months for issuing for criminal and traffic citations. Once we move to the Tyler system, it's so easy for the staff to just upload them and get them in the system instead of like hand doing every single name, typing it into the computer. So also, I know last time we had discussed training for crisis intervention.
Yep.
I found this center, the Oregon Center on Behavioral Health and Justice Integration. So they are a committee or center on providing access to training of crisis intervention and mental health issues. And so if you open it up there, it says services offered at no cost, which I like the sound of that. Second bullet down, specialized training for justice and behavioral health professionals in crisis intervention team training. So I found this while I was on vacation last week, and I'm going to call them this week and hopefully set up a training for not just me, but staff, defense attorneys, and Mr. Erskine, so that everyone, to see what services they offer and have that implemented for all of us. We also, Matt had set up a meeting with us and circuit people over in circuit court. Unfortunately, with our trial schedule and circuit court schedule, it fell apart, but we're hoping to hopefully reschedule that soon. And I think with this too, if we can set up a training, it would be good to have the other jurisdictions participate in that. So, so that is definitely something that will happen in the next couple months. That's about it for me. Any questions, concerns, criticisms? Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. Well,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Okay, now we're going to get the prosecutor up here, Sam.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members.
Good afternoon.
And as those are being handed out, I can tell you that the first item on there is something that Judge Lindgren touched on, which is essentially we've been working together to kind of resuscitate the municipal court's ability to do trials, jury trials in particular. And that's been, I would say, a joint effort between all of us, including Ms. Payne over there in the court as well. So we've had to figure out some logistical issues related to getting enough jurors in a jury pool so that we can actually hold a trial, where those jurors will be throughout the day that they're here. And then we've also had to put together, and I don't know if one existed before, but we were not able to locate it, a process for handling court exhibits during trial. So those are, at least in my experience, typically retained by the court, so that if something goes up on appeal, the court can provide the exhibits that were admitted at trial to the appeals court, and also a list of witnesses. So those are just kind of concrete, little detailed things that we had to implement some practices for. And then also on that note, we, with Matt's assistance, got some working microphones in the court and made sure that the recording device, which is essential, obviously, to being a court of record, was functioning properly and preserving those audio files in the way that it needs to.
Why you bring that up? I know people listening right now cannot hear you because I've been told. I've been told a number of people that they cannot hear the people sitting at the table. And I keep forgetting to bring it up, but they've been complaining for about a month now. So we need to do something about that mic because it just is not working. We need to get a whole new system.
I will.
These mics are new.
And they say they hear us no problem, but they never hear the
correct.
person talking.
The intention of that mic and well, I don't get into the specifics of it, but I can purchase a better microphone. I just have not heard that.
That's
so
what I want to hear. Yes.
I will purchase one.
And I meant to bring it up, so I'm sorry to
No,
interrupt.
that's fine.
It
And
was on my mind.
I did hear when I was sitting in the audience, it seemed to amplify in fits and starts. So I will try to speak into it, and I apologize for not making eye contact with you. So those were some concrete things that we worked out, details that we worked out in order to, like I said, resuscitate the court's ability to do jury trials, which is, in my opinion, kind of, if you were going to make an analogy to the human body, it's almost like the lungs of the court. You have to have a court that is able to provide people jury trials because it's a fundamental constitutional right. Yep. It's just part of the way that the law proceeds in a court setting. And with that said, I did tell you that I had some numbers about the number of jury trials scheduled. There's 16 between now and June 21st. And I can tell you that I agree with Judge Lindgren's assessment that I don't think all of them, in my experience, every trial that's set does not end up going to trial. So I think that's accurate. I would also attribute it, at least in part, to this backlog of cases that we were working through when I came on board. I think a lot of those cases were put to the side because they were maybe more difficult. They weren't cases that would resolve easily, which are cases that tend to get set for trial. So getting those started again meant setting some trials out of those cases that we worked through. And so I did a breakdown showing you that 8 of the cases were cases that 8 of the cases set for trial are cases that I reviewed and issued, and then 8 were from that backlog. So if we were to extrapolate from that figure, I would say that you might expect in a period from now to June, so 4 months, 8 trials on average. And right now we have double that, but hopefully that will go down. The second item on my list is the expansion of my own role, my business's role in providing services to the city, which was a part of the restructuring that occurred over at the court and the prosecutor's office. And so now I, along with my wife, who's part of my business, are providing the administrative support services that go along with the prosecution function. The biggest services that includes are providing discovery, so police reports, body camera footage, and things like that to defense attorneys and defendants. And there are state laws that regulate how that's supposed to be done. And then also the victim notification, which is something that is important to me personally, and it's something that I would really like. I've identified it as an area that I think can be improved upon significantly in terms of making sure that all victims on cases are informed of their rights and they have statutory and constitutional rights. And then making sure that I collect, or at least do my best to collect restitution when it's requested and get no contact orders in place when they're needed and things like that. So that's something I want to emphasize going forward. And I would just point out that from my perspective, there were maybe some issues which kind of blurred the line between prosecution and court functions with the way the court was previously structured that I think are cleaner now that I'm doing all of that service. So I think that's a much more efficient way to handle things. So yeah, that's I guess part of my primary goal going forward is to streamline those processes and hopefully, save the city money in terms of the cost that carrying out those functions used to incur with respect to the city. So, and you can see I've put little asterisks in this section, which kind of relate. I'll talk about them at the end, but they relate back to things that I identified as goals in my last report. And then that brings me to the goals that I'm identifying in this report, which is, and one thing that we've encountered since the last report is an instance where we've had to deal with a defendant who is likely unable to aid and assist. And what that means is that the person essentially can't understand the nature of the charges against them and can't help their defense attorney in providing their own defense. And in circuit courts, at least where I've practiced, there is a process in place to get those people evaluated by a mental health professional. Sometimes it's done at the Oregon State Hospital by the psychiatric professionals there. And then have a report written about whether the person will ever be able to aid and assist, or whether with the assistance of medication or treatment or time or something like that, or whether the person is permanently unable to aid and assist, which would then affect whether a prosecutor should continue to prosecute that person for a crime. So I'm hoping that we can, as I understand it, there was no process in place for dealing with that. So I'm hoping that we can, together working with Judge Lindgren and then perhaps working with folks at the circuit court and the district attorney's office, figure out a way for the municipal court to handle cases where we have a defendant who might be in that position where they don't have the capacity to aid and assist. So there's a lot that goes into that in terms of how those people are identified and then what we do once we've identified them. But we're looking, or at least I would like to get that a process set in place for that. One of the kind of concrete things that I would like to do is essentially create an area in the courtroom where we have court forms available. It's done in kind of a piecemeal fashion now, but I think if we had one bookshelf or something like that, which we have a bookshelf that we could use in there, and then make available all of the court forms right there, that would make it easier on defense attorneys and more in line with what I've seen in courts that I've practiced in. And it also shifts some of the burden from court staff in terms of completing forms to defense attorneys, so that you can say to the defense attorney, can you go fill out that form? You can grab it off that shelf right there and then hand it up to the court, rather than having the court clerk filling out those forms essentially for the defense attorney. And then I'm going to continue to work with Matt to expand or fulfill the administrative duties that were included in the contract that was submitted to the city. So one of them is getting a phone line staffed, and then working on, I have to obtain access to some databases like the law enforcement database, so that I can see people's criminal histories in order to make informed sentencing recommendations or plea offers or things like that. So I'm going to continue to work with Matt and I guess just kind of figure that out as I go, because that is new to me. So I'm working to get all those systems in place and hopefully make the city happy in terms of the work that I'm doing for them in the administrative role as well. And then the last part of my report is just kind of an update, or at least touching on the things that I identified as goals in the first report, one of which was the drafting and proposal of contract to fulfill those administrative duties, which was done. So, and then the second item was touched on this notion of expanding victim services, the victim services provided by the prosecution office. So that's at the top of my list going forward. And that's something that, taking on these expanded administrative role, I think I'll be better equipped to do that, because now that duty is not divided between me and another person. It's all essentially, the buck stops with me on that now. And then the last goal that I identified was creating essentially prosecutor files, which were not kept previously, at least in terms of recent history. So I have a prosecutor file, case notes file on every defendant, every case that I've issued now. And I'm going to continue to fine-tune that going forward, but that was one of the goals that I wanted to do in my last report, and that's something that I've done, but I'm going to continue to improve upon. That's all I got for you. Any questions for me? Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Good work. Cleaning it up. Okay. I'm going to get a cup of coffee, but I'm going to turn it over to, this looks like it's going towards John. Discuss draft changes to council operating rules and procedures.
If it's coming to me, I'm going to put it right back at you. This is something we talked about in the council retreat that we reviewed fairly in depth, and I'm not sure if there was a lot of outstanding issues with the rules piece. I think the governing policy, the next piece, there was probably a little more discussion about. But just as a recap, the operating rules, this was an attempt to meld together the 2012 charter change with our 2008 council rules, which had, obviously some numbering kinds of things, just kind of grammatical corrections, but it also had some substantive things about meeting times and things that were incorrect that I had corrected to bring it to a current state. And I don't know that there was a lot of objection at the workshop, but this is still in a draft form. If we're going to update them, it'd be by resolution. And if the council satisfied with this, then we would direct staff to prepare and bring this forward for adoption. So.
I think there was only one thing that Councilor Morton brought up that he caught, and I think that you changed that, right?
Mm-hmm. So it could be that easy if that's where.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Councilor Locke, what you were speaking?
Just wondering if, it's been a few weeks since I went through this, so just thinking if, trying to remember these changes and whatnot. Could we, is there a hurry, or could we wait?
Oh, we
2 more
walked through.
weeks, or-
We walked through them on a retreat. Do you remember that?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
And literally went through each and every one of them.
So yeah, I guess I'm okay with this.
What I can do is provide a clean copy
once
and a
you do that,
red line copy at the next meeting,
Yeah.
so that you'll be able to stare and compare.
Mm-mm.
In larger print, yes. I will remove the comments in the margin. That does make it a lot hard, difficult to read. So.
Yeah, it's a 16 font.
Yeah, I had my own challenges reading that. So.
Okay, so then we discussed council governing policies.
Okay, the governing policy was, again, something we talked about in the council retreat. The thrust of it, I suppose, is that we're coming out of the council goals. There was collective interest in increasing the city administrator's authority. And we didn't decide exactly what that looked like, whether it's included, hiring and firing, or if they're still going to retain this collaborative process for those types of duties. It also touched on the supervision of department heads and the evaluation process, which we're, this document's been around a while, and we've not been following that religiously as far as the 360 evaluations and fairly complex review processes there. So I would be happy to prepare a final version if I had the inputs for that. So, for the.
I think so. Then we'll give you the final input on that.
A draft final version.
You want another? Okay, draft final version. Okay. Fair enough. And again, this is about building off the
what we had discussed,
the city goals. What came out, and I maybe take a moment to talk about the city goals for a minute. That we have those draft goals, and we met at a management meeting, talked about them, and the staff is they're pretty high level. So we're hoping to kind of fill some of those things in with some content, so we have more concrete, substantive kinds of things that are still targeted within those goal areas, because they really haven't changed, and have a document that's more substantive. So.
Well, I have one issue that I shared with you, and I think I've shared with most every counselor here, and that's for the elected officials or the elected counselors to maintain the status as a commissioner as they oversee the commissions that they are appointed to. Now, the commissions are delegated by the council, and the council appoints two individuals out of the community to the commissions, the Parks Commission, the Planning Commission, the Library Commission.
The mayor does. Let's get that straight. The mayor appoints those commissions.
You appoint.
As charter.
You appoint.
As part of the
and-
charter.
Yeah, you appoint, but
Okay.
it has to be ratified by the entire council. So I'm looking at it as the entire council, not you. Because if you do it, then we don't have any say.
Yeah.
No, it's the entire council that does that. The council decides who will be appointed, and then you make the appointment officially. I mean, we talk about that all the time.
Not the way I read the charter. I beg to differ with you. I appoint you guys to whatever position heads I see fit.
That's fine. I'm not talking about that.
Well, that's what you're making it sound. Is what I
No,
heard.
I'm talking about the council appoints individuals out of the community
Absolutely, yes.
to the commissions.
That's right, but that is the way you were saying it.
Misunderstood.
Yep.
Okay, so that's
Misunderstood that.
okay. So if that's misunderstood, then what I'm saying is that the council person who oversees that commission maintains the oversight of that commission rather than just simply being a liaison of that commission. So the Parks Commission should be, the oversight should stay with the council person. As far as day-to-day operations of the city, that can go with whoever.
I tend to slightly agree with that because we own the parks as a city, and we have projects that we are going to do as well.
Yes.
And the commission's not going to be completely in control of our park.
The commission is not in control.
No,
If you read the charter, the commissions.
So if I give it to you, Doug, and then you're on you're on the Parks Commission,
right?
And then also you're in control of parks and.
I'm not in control.
Right now you're over Public Works, which is where Parks falls
I'm a
underneath.
liaison of Public Works.
So do you see what I'm saying? How that could be
Okay, so,
controlling, that all of a sudden I feel I can't do nothing unless I absolutely come, or we can't even discuss nothing unless we absolutely come through you?
no, there's no absolute power with the commission. The commission is an open governing system. It's made up by people, and those people people do not control anything. They make recommendation, listen, please, they make recommendations to the council. The council hears their recommendations and then acts on it. So there's no power grab there. What are you talking about?
No, I'm not going to say
That's about as democratic and about as
No.
transparent as it can be.
So Doug, you're going to get upset with me, but it's not working for Portland, and we're the only other government that does it. Only other city in Oregon that does it.
No, no, we
other
don't
than
do
Portland.
it. We
Other
do
than
not roll
Portland,
up our sleeves and manage
we
a
have-
department.
we
You've
have-
got it wrong.
We still have that style of government. We absolutely do, and you got it wrong. And I apologize that I'm calling you out on it, but that's exactly what we have.
We are
And I'm not
liaisons.
going to have an idea here to kick it down to a commission to have it come back to us. If it's our idea and we're working on it right here, let's get it done. I'm not kicking it to a commission to meet once a month to have it come back 3 months from now. If it's our idea or our parks or our projects, we're going through with it. Point blank.
Then why
That's
have a commission?
Because the commission sees other ideas outside the box. That's for them to come up with these ideas and make recommendations. Absolutely, commissions are important.
Okay. I'm glad you said that.
Can I?
What that I'm not saying get commissions out of the way, completely out of it, but I don't see a need if we have it on our plate right here. We are elected officials, Doug. We have to make some decisions sometimes that may be difficult or may not rub people the right way.
Well, there's checks and balances.
Like raising the water rates recently.
There's
It
checks
was,
and
it
balances
was something
there.
that just had to be done.
One of the things we seems to really, really need is a hard definition of what is a commission and what is the council. Right now we're playing words and we kind of do this and that. I think we need a hard written definition of what is a commission, which is volunteers, how it's connected, the amount of power it has stated. Then we have a definition of what the council does and what its power as stated written down. Because right now we seem to have a fog on who does what.
I would agree.
And the commission gives recommendations to the council. The council does not need to follow those recommendations. And in that, they just are, we need to have that transparency. We need to have those checkpoints of what we're doing. And don't you think it's correct that if there's a Parks Commission and the council wants to do something that you might be your idea and we might be a little split on it, that the commission, the Parks Commission hears about it, reports, they hear it, they take a vote, and they give a recommendation to the council. There's no power grab, it's a recommendation. And so the council person should oversee that committee or that commission so that it is run fairly, effectively, and it's a citizens committee. And that's the most important thing. Somebody has to be in charge of that commission or that committee, and it should be a council person. That's all I'm saying. And you're saying, no, the heck with the commission. That's the way I read you.
You totally read me wrong. You know, I know that this city runs on volunteers, and I appreciate all the volunteers. What I'm saying is I'm not going to, I definitely, okay, I'm going to use an example. I know that you guys are working on the parks and the trails downtown. I totally support that idea. Now, if we're doing something down here at Grey Cliff, putting in a bathroom and stuff, I'm not going to send it to the Parks Commission to get a recommendation to come back, because that was something we already had in place. Now, the Veterans Park, if the Veterans and the Parks Commission decide that that's something they're tackling together, great. That was something the city's not doing. I'm not going to, on the waterfront redevelopment down here, I'm not gonna let, if we got something that needs approval, why are we gonna wait down the road? Because you or I probably won't even be here when that's probably
I know
finally
that.
going on. But why are we gonna make somebody wait to do a project to kick it down to the Parks Commission to get a recommendation of something that we already had drawn up sometimes, even? That we've already
We can have it drawn up.
because you've done that. Because you have done that before.
What do you mean?
You've done that with the bicycle thing. You had it sent when we just wanted to put a bike rack. You've done it on multiple occasions. And I've never said nothing because you like the process. But sometimes the process just takes, when it's our idea and it's on our plate, we should not kick it back down to a commission. We should make that decision. We are elected officials. I guess that's what I'm arguing right now. And sometimes they're not going to be popular. And sometimes, yes, we may step on the toes of commissions, but I hope they will see that we have the city's best interest at heart. Because that's the way I feel I'm up here doing, serving our community right now. And I know you do too as well. But we're more efficient that way.
I don't even know what I don't even understand the example that you gave about a bicycle rack. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, it wasn't that long ago, Doug, and I'm sorry if your memory escapes you, but it was up by the feed store. They were wanting to put in a little bike, and it's on record. You can go back and look at it. I'm not lying to you.
That's the Arts and Cultural Commission.
Yeah.
That isn't me.
Yeah, but you're the one who actually sat there and made it go back to the Arts and Cultural Commission because it was brought up by Margaret, our librarian. I recall the meeting, Doug. I mean, it happened, and there was other occasions like that that have happened. I'm not trying to call you out, and I'm not trying to go this route. I just disagree.
Unrelated to that.
Am I wrong?
Debate. No,
Somebody?
this is just my perspective on it. Mr. Topaz had a word. When we had this conversation, my frustration with the way it's currently setting up, with the way I view it, that it's not working, is we have things that have been outlined in a master plan, decisions made in this room that we expect to be carried out, and we're held by the voters accountable to carry those out. And my view is to give John the power to follow up to make sure those things happen. That's all. I didn't want to change the way we govern or whatever. I just wanted to give John the authority to follow through on decisions we make, so it doesn't get lost in committee or lost with staff or lost in the paperwork, that it actually gets followed through and we can hold somebody accountable. That's the only thing I thought of. Is I think sometimes I go, didn't we agree on this? And then 2 years down the road, it still hasn't happened.
I guess what I'm just trying to clarify is that, yes, you'll still be head of Parks Commission. Do we have to send everything through Parks Commission that we
No.
have on our plate? Absolutely not.
That they ask, that sometimes the Parks Commission will ask us what the council is doing and what's going on. And in my report, I will tell them what's going on in the council. Now, is that fair? Is that okay to do that in your mind? To tell the Parks Commission
Absolutely.
of what's going on? And-
You're misreading me by a long
No.
ways.
So I say, so I go there and I tell them that that's what's going on. And I ask you, a lot of times I'll ask if they have any additional comments to that or any kinds of other kinds of things that can happen. Case in point, last Parks meeting or 2 Parks meetings ago, they asked that what's going on with the waterfront development, and I said, well, we're looking at Gray Cliff Waterfront Park. What can happen there? And they go, well, do you need any recommendation? I said, it'd be really good if you folks come in and give us 5 recommendations that you think should happen at Gray Cliffs Waterfront Park. And they did that in their last meeting. Just 5 ideas of what our community wants. Not what we want, but what our community wants and what they think in that commission is important for Gray Cliffs Waterfront Park. Do we do them? We sit here and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about those concepts that they brought up. We'll talk about them, and possibly some of those could be implemented. was we hire a landscape designer and a park designer to put those, what are we going to have put in there? And I'm trying to empower that commission to have, as stakeholders, to have some responsibility into what's going on in our parks. And there should be a visionary group that gives us input to how we function.
I get it. I get it. So just so you know, and I get that, we have $500,000 right now allocated for parks.
Right.
Playground equipment needs to get put in.
Right.
You're in charge of that.
Right.
You oversee public works. Just calling you. I'm just letting you know. That was budgeted last year. Okay.
I'm the liaison, and it says in there that I am the liaison to Public Works, and they make that call.
Just so you know.
The council here reports to...
The way our commission is set up right now is not the case. It's set up just like Portland.
No, it isn't.
Actually,
it is not.
Yes,
we don't
it is.
roll our sleeves up, and we do not have oversight.
Nick Fish had a big, huge problem with the way they were wanting to revamp their, and he's the elder on there, and I can see why. Because he's just used to the way things are. But it isn't working.
We do not manage those departments.
We need to have another retreat on this. So we're not doing this in public.
Does not manage the police department. There's your department head right there, the chief of police. Keith is a liaison.
I'm just going to make a recommendation that we plan another retreat so we can actually talk about a little bit more. And I'm not going to do appointments. I was going to do them later, but I'm not going to do appointments till after that retreat, and I will do it immediately after that.
Can I?
Yes.
Say a few words because I don't think there's as much disagreement as it may feel like and sound like. But so for a number of years, we've had a council goal of attempting to create more separation in between the policy-making body as the council to the administration, and that hand of administration being the council. These all powers are held at the council. It's pretty clear in the charter, and they can assign boards and committees for advisory input and all the things you do. Whether you take that advice, or put it to a commission is entirely up to the council. But how you direct those activities to get completed through the administrative part of that decision making is really what we've been talking about as far as empowering more authority to the city administrator, so there's more linear channels to direct the flow of work. It's not so much policy. The policy piece of it can be handled by the council, and whatever comfort level you have to seek out boards and commissions to interact with each other in non-quorum capacities. So I just don't think we're that far apart.
Yeah, we're not. And we're not.
Are the counselors acting as department heads? It says oversight in those council rules, whether you interpret that literally or more if it's more of a observational kind of role. That's I know with past police chiefs, if Steve Slee would say, if Keith Locke wants to come sit at my desk, I'm going to scoot over and let him sit at my desk. When he was police commissioner, and that's where his head was at anyway. And so this is just an attempt to clean some of that up. So I'm not sure what we'd accomplish in a retreat. But,
that's kind of maybe to revamp our to have a final. You got together with staff, maybe a final overview of our goals and having the meat and potatoes in between there. Right. The projects filled in. Maybe that's the goal. Maybe that's the retreat.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm definitely, I think we all have a passion for the city and moving it forward. Right. I mean, that's evidently clear if you're watching. That's what's going on here.
A lot of loving going on.
Yes. All right. So, where were we? Did we get through that draft?
This is a work in progress. We're still working on it.
Okay, now we're going to discuss, yes, this is a work progress. We're going to discuss local legal counsel. So I know that was brought up last meeting. We had Bob Salisbury give a little bit of a presentation.
So we currently have our general services contract is with Jordan Ramus. We have a variety of legal services at our disposal from Jordan Ramus, Tim Ramus coming out for land use, and some of the specialties through environmental and other some finance, I suppose. At one of the meetings we had prior in the fall there, we had Ed Tromke come out and kind of sit on the council as the meetings. And Scappoose has a representation at every meeting. In the past, we haven't done that mostly out of a financial sense and just kind of an ability to have a sense of what needs immediate attention. And I did reach out to and talk with Ed last week to explore his interest, and he is fairly interested. It's as needed kind of basis, and I kind of quizzed him on the cost piece of it, him coming out, and whether what that would look like. And he said he didn't charge port to port. He's not billing us the whole time, and he wanted to even have a special rate for meetings because it wasn't, he wasn't practicing legal work. He was there more kind of on a as needed basis. So I don't think the cost is a huge driver as it might be played to be.
Yeah.
It's just what your preference is as far as personalities and. And we do have an existing relationship with that firm right now. But if you want to explore other options, that's entirely in your wheelhouse. So.
I think part of this is because we've had a Portland firm for so long would be to get somebody local that is part of the community, works in the community, and communicates with all the community. So it'd be kind of nice to have somebody local.
I appreciate the local element, but it needs to be the regular process for people doing business with the city. Not the neighbor, not somebody's friend, not somebody that did a favor for us one time. It has to be open to the public. It has to be a regular process. So if we're going to deviate from the attorney services we've been using for as long as I've been here, it needs to go out if we're going to contract another service. I just think that other attorneys, there's a lot of legal services available within a stone's throw of this building, and to just pick somebody out of a hat, I think doesn't seem very transparent to me. It might still end up being the same person, but just arbitrarily choosing somebody because they happen to be here that day seems.
Hopefully we don't make that mistake.
Yeah,
hopefully
I'm just weighing in.
if we do this, we go out for a request for proposal and go over it just like we do everything else.
Just making sure.
One of the things in legal services, generally lawyers are somewhat specialized, where firms will have a group of specialists. The laws that face us day to day are a whole variety, and that points more to a law firm than a single lawyer, local or whatever. So I think the description of what legal services we might need and a company that could fill those would probably be more important. If you're local and can fill all of the requirements that we have, fine. If it takes somebody from out of town, you got to go out of town. But I don't think a single specialist is really applicable in this day of age and the way the law is going.
I was going to ask about what their term was on Jordan Ramus. We have an existing contract with them.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is, but
I know it's
just for
midterm
Well,
somewhere. So.
I wouldn't say that we need to get rid of Jordan Ramus. I mean, because they do have all the specialists and whatnot.
yeah, definitely, it
Yeah.
would not be a matter of getting rid of that contract.
Right.
But definitely having somebody here, not regularly, obviously, but to have somebody that has that specialty for a couple of reasons is, number one, they have familiarity with a lot of the projects that we are working on. So there's that thing alone is helpful. They're familiar with attorneys that are working on projects that we're working The other thing too is sometimes having somebody locally, when we have an issue with somebody that's local, that sometimes isn't going to gel very
Conflict
well.
of interest, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that to me is not going to be a good combination. But
So that was the motivation behind my request was to have someone who, in a moment's notice, could come down and help us out, and even clarify the type of government that we were just talking about, do some clarification, and help us out individually. We've needed that. I can countless times as we've been talking, and especially in some of our evening sessions, we've needed legal advice here, I feel, for your protection. And we don't have it. We don't. I think we're probably one of the only councils around that does not have legal advice during some of their sessions, and we need that. I just think we're liable in many ways. So that was my request, that there'd be somebody close by that we could use who's local, who could be here in a minute. And there's nothing about a friend or any of that. I'm kind of offended at that you brought that up, since I was just, Bob Salisbury happened to be here, and I just go, could you please comment on that?
It's just avoiding the appearance. I wouldn't want anybody to assume that.
Yeah.
You know, I know that you're have an integrity and, you're an honest guy. Wasn't making that assumption, but things happen in here and it turns up in newspaper or on social media and it becomes fact, and it's not fact. And I just want to make sure, clarify that.
Thank you.
So what I heard our administrator saying, John, is saying that Ed would work port to port right now. Why don't we get him out here? He wouldn't charge us from port to port. Why don't we get him out here for a few meetings next couple months, see how it goes. He's already affiliated with Jordan Ramos, right?
We've been working with him for years. Yep.
So it wouldn't be that much of a cost just to see. I understand the local guy, but I also understand the local guy in Kathy's scenario too, where all of a sudden there's a conflict of interest. Say it's us versus, maybe it's us.
That can happen regardless of who you have.
Well,
doesn't matter.
All right, but maybe it's us and the port working together on a project. Now we have the same attorney.
We've been there before. It's happened before.
So we're in bed together?
No. You,
No, that's
you
what
go
it
out and you
looks.
get different
That's
lawyers,
the way
just
it
like
looks.
we do for other things.
Still looks that way.
No, you'll get different lawyers.
Still looks that way. I get it. Even if you, what are you gonna do? Just fire him completely? Wash your hands?
No.
No, I get it.
He just sits out that round, that's all. Just like
Like,
we do now.
I-
We get specialized lawyers for all
I'm
kinds
just
of
with
things.
I'm just with Jenny. I think that that could be perceived very differently.
Well, to
No,
put out an RFP, everybody has a shot at it.
Yeah, then it's fair.
absolutely.
It's a process.
Yeah. So what's the problem with that?
I think an RFP for on-call, and then you use it on-call. And
I think this could be a specialist for just meetings. It doesn't have to be something that does all of our work. It can only do just little pieces, just like all of our other lawyers do.
I would
I'm not
only
opposed to it.
add that
I'm just
they're
throwing out an idea.
All I know is Jordan Ramos has cost us a ton of money because they're in Portland.
And
We're here.
they charge legal fees for their travel.
And they do not care.
200.
We are not on a pedestal and get a good timetable.
$500 to get them down there.
Trust me.
Oh, yeah.
I've been working on a contract now for how long?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not opposed to it. I'm just saying that's it would be a trial. I don't know. I just felt when we met with Ed that he seemed like very. I don't know how anybody else felt.
Aren't we picking somebody if we pick him?
No, because he's already part of our.
We have a contract with him already.
I guess it'd just be a trial. Just if you're not happy with our services, then I guess maybe we should really look at.
I believe we should.
I think it's a conversation.
It almost ought to be a conversation with the lawyers about all the details as compared to us playing games with what we think is happening or not happening. I really think we need the lawyer's view of what we need.
I think you're right, Councilor Topaz.
So the primary driver we don't have legal counsel has been in the past has been the expense of it, and making a change is going to can have some budgetary impact. We've had a sense of it as a council. The council said, okay, this is something we need to look into, and we do, and it just slows down the process a little bit.
Let's get 3 attorneys in here, pay them to get an advice on do we need an attorney and what kind of attorney do we need. That's what Councilor Topaz just recommended, and I agree.
We could do more of a pure communities and look around to see what cities of our size have counsel that comes and sits with the council. That might be.
I guarantee you, every lawyer is going to have a different job description.
But
who we need.
But I think staff can look into what other communities are doing and what works, and give us a better rundown without incurring additional legal fees. Because I mean, Matt's done it with finance stuff, John's done it with planning stuff, that they can do some more background work and see where we really might want to go before we have a lawyer come in and pitch to us. I don't know.
I'm not opposed to none of this. I'm not.
So
that's why I made sure it was on the agenda.
Just some history. We had issue with our in-house lawyer, so we went out and got a contract lawyer. We decided not to have a lawyer in our meetings because it very rarely came up, and whenever an issue came up that we needed a lawyer, we just postponed it till the next meeting and got lawyers' advice for that and whatnot. And that's kind of what we've been doing for the last 10, 12 years, actually probably 14 years, something like that.
But when it costs $500 to bring an attorney from Portland down here, it is not cost effective. And that was kind of my point. If there's someone local, you can bring him in or her in and resolve the issue within an hour or two or whatever, get a judgment. That's what we're after. That's what I was after for the council and for the council's protection.
So what are we discussing here? Are we going to get an RFP drawn up? Is that what we're asking for?
It could just be an RFP for council for our meetings specific.
On-call local attorney, basically.
Something like that, yeah.
I really like Carlson's suggestion. We have some of our staff see what others are doing to pick up the local or the statewide preference and go from there. And after that, follow through with an RFP if need be. But let staff find out what the standard is or the
Because otherwise,
history of
how do you write an RFP unless we know what we're?
correct.
We need to know a little bit more, and then proceed from there. Because if no one's doing it a la carte like that, do we want to be forging new ground?
A la carte, I like that.
You know what I mean? If nobody's doing it, if that's unusual, then we want to look at maybe there's, a rural model, because suburbs of Portland aren't maybe the best example. Maybe people that are at least an hour away from their legal services. What does that look like for Vernonia, for Banks? What are they doing? People that have to wait and have to schedule weeks in advance. How are they handling that?
Oftentimes, it's just the culture of the council. I mean, I've worked in small cities where the attorney comes every time because it's that hostile on the council, frankly.
Well, a lot of councils need that.
And larger cities, the more members. Sometimes it's everybody. It's pretty congenial and things that move smoothly, and you don't need it as much. So it's.
Are we preparing for a hostile environment or something?
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, that was part of the decision, because you're right. I mean, we didn't have any issues, so just was no need for it.
How long have we been with Jordan Ramus?
Well, at least it's got to be 12 years, if not longer. Maybe 14. Probably about 14. Yeah, I know it's been, because it's been longer than Doug's been here, so it's been 14 years.
Okay, so we know where we're going with that, right? We're good? Staff
More
is
information.
directed. Staff is directed to
Staff's
find us.
fairly confused.
Yes, I know. But you're directed, confusionally directed.
You got your curvy line.
All right. So department reports. Chief
Yeah.
Greenway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one thing out of the police department is we advertised for the position of police officer in January, and it closed. And we had, when it closed, we had 27 applicants apply for the position of police officer in the city of St. Helens. We whittled that down to 23 based upon 4 of the candidates did not even complete the testing process. So tomorrow we have an oral board scheduled all day here at City Hall with police department personnel, and we have Councilor Locke and Aaron Kunders from the wastewater treatment plant will be sitting on the oral boards. And we have 15 candidates tomorrow that will be hoping to fill the vacancies at the police department. So, and that's all we have.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Sue?
Just a little bit of an update. We have a lot of projects going on right now, mostly private development projects, which is awesome to see around town. We do have the one city construction project, the storm water project over on South 10th Street, and a whole bunch of projects coming up the line, ready to go out. We're having a pre-construction meeting for one of those on Friday, and another project set of plans was just delivered today. So we got a lot of stuff going on around town, which is great to see right now. That's all.
I just need to, being that you're both public works, just need to commend you guys on the effort when that floods, that water hit, just midnight. You guys were on it. Yep. It could have been a whole lot worse had our public works not been out that early and proactive. And I just wanted to state that, you know, and some of the problems that are around the city are why we had to raise the storm part of your water bill to the reporters out there. 3.5 is because those projects that we have identified need to get done, and they are in the budget, and we would not be able to meet that budget to fulfill those projects. So that's why it's 3.5 and the other are 2%, which is roughly about probably 2.5% of your whole water bill. Don't add them all up. I think storm's less than any of them. So 2.3, not even 2.5. But good work, and I was able to go over to Neil. Sherry had called in sick, and Neil was answering phones there for the first part, and it was off the hook. There was a lot of citizens that had issues. So,
Yeah, I also want to thank Crystal for stepping
Yes.
in and helping answer phones for a while that morning. Oh, we're taking everything away from Neil's report. Okay, I'll shut up.
I heard we almost had a Cinco de Mayo.
Not us, the county.
Yeah, but wasn't Rick parked on top though?
Yeah,
It's going to be Cinco.
He was trying to
Cinco
save
de
the.
Mayo.
He was saving the school children coming over the.
I did.
The deal. So we about had buses going over that one.
Yep.
That was a county issue. It wasn't ours, but we did have over 100 call-outs between midnight and 12 o'clock the next day, and I saw water where I've never seen it before. Even in '96, it was pretty incredible, and it was frustrating because most of the calls we couldn't do anything because the system's just overwhelmed.
Yep.
But yeah, thanks to Rick for coming out and started up Sandbagger with a couple of my guys. And
you guys already had it ready to go.
Thanks to the CERT
Yes.
team, they came in and took over, and some volunteers also. So thanks to all those folks that helped out during that. But it was a pretty major event.
Yep.
Neil, can I talk a question about the Gable Road cave-in?
Uh-huh.
I was looking at that, and I noticed there's no leak collar around the culvert that goes underneath it, and the culvert was underwashed quite severely and still being underwashed. Is that the city's culvert?
No, it's the county's culvert.
Oh, and who investigates and supposedly checks that out? Because that underwashing's been going on a number of months.
They're working on a project to replace it now. They're waiting on some permits from the Fish and Game and it's a contract thing with ODOT, I believe, Sue.
Yeah, they actually have a notice to proceed from ODOT because they had this project approved last summer, but they hadn't gotten their permits from the Corps of Engineers and DSL. They now have their sign-off from Fish and Wildlife. They have the notice to proceed from ODOT to expend the funds, and they were waiting for the final approval from the Corps and DSL, but they anticipated that to be this week, and they are expecting to start that work on Monday, actually.
Now,
And to answer your question, who's in charge of that? They have an engineer that works for the county too.
Correct.
Mm.
Tristan Wood.
Tristan Wood. So he's
Well, as I say, inspection, that has been going on a couple of years because they're washed out. Right now, they're also resetting telephone poles or power poles to widen the sidewalk all the way out. Does that screw up the permits at all for correcting the?
I don't. That's a total separate issue than the culvert. So
Well, because they're going to.
There's one laying right there, so it kind of looked bad. But yeah, that doesn't have anything to do with the culvert. That's totally a separate thing.
Because it's going to widen the length of the culvert out by quite a bit for that sidewalk.
Yeah, they'll take that into account.
And that doesn't mean any new permits. It just means do it with more dirt.
Right, more or less. Yep. So that's all I got.
Good job, Neil. By the way, Margaret.
You have in front of you an announcement for Saturday's Maker Fest. This will be pretty much all over the building on Saturday, the whole lobby and the meeting rooms. You can see the whole array of activities that are planned. There's Lego building and stop motion animation. The high school robotics team will be there, and also students from the St. Helens High School Rapid Manufacturing class who have done some other activities at the library with our youth librarian in the past. So it should be a fun day of making, so join us if you can. And I also had a few slides, Kathy. I wanted to use my department report to highlight some of the lesser-known services of the library. And so today, what I wanted to talk about was exam proctoring services. I think sometimes the library does things that are a service to the community that don't get some of the attention they deserve because of the fact that they're just kind of an integral part of what we do, and we forget to think about them as something that should be highlighted and the council should be aware of. But we offer proctoring services, and I put up a definition because proctor isn't a word you hear very often. The next slide. This gives you an idea of how many exams we have proctored in recent years. You can see the volume of that is going up. Part of that is because we have more and more people going to school online. And when they are separate by great distances from the institution that they're going to, they need somebody who can oversee their exams. If you'll go to the next slide. And these are the institutions that we've worked with in these recent years. Some of them require us to go through some kind of certification process with them, so they're ensured of the integrity of our oversight. Brigham Young University, for instance, has a program for high school students as well as their own university students. So in recent years, there have been a number of students at St. Helens High School that are taking courses for dual credit. And our youth librarian handles all the proctoring for high school students, and our reference librarian handles most of the other proctoring for the other institutions. But that gives you an idea of the breadth of the institutions that we've worked with. And then these are some of the subjects that those tests have been for. So I just wanted you to be aware of this simply because it's a pretty valuable service to those students to be able to complete their coursework and pursue their higher education, and we hope significant employment after that. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Margaret. Matt?
Just a few items to let the council be aware of. The quarterly court report is in the administration section of your packet to review. Nothing surprising there, but you can see estimates of where I expect to be at the end of the year, as well as where we are up to December. A couple other things just to mention. The recreation guide went to the printer on Friday. That will be out hopefully this week, I'm hoping. So that rec guide will go through the end of April. And then around that April time frame, we will release the summer catalog, which is kind of the big daddy.
So half of spring basically right now?
Correct.
And then,
So if we closed for
Yeah.
December and January as we were getting the rec center ready. The guide is going to go out 3 times a year, so January through April, May through August, and then September through December. So it'll be 3 times a year. So we're just getting on that schedule. And it's a little awkward right now because we're obviously already into February. So
Yep.
So that'll be out. You'll see some advertisements in the paper as well as a couple other areas that we're going to offer summer camps for kids. So day-long summer camps for those who don't have daycare services during the summertime when school isn't in session. The recreation program will provide full-day summer camp classes either on a daily basis or a week-long basis. Each week will be a different kind of set schedule and activities that are going on. So you can look forward to that coming. The police station RFP was due back a couple weeks ago, and staff has reviewed it. We're just waiting on the final proposal numbers from a couple council members that reviewed it as well, and likely we'll set up 1 or 2 additional meetings with those people if needed to select and see who wants to move forward, and we'll get a contract and process to the council to review and look over. So that is still in the works. And Kathy and I are reviewing the IT position that closed last Friday. I think we had 61 applicants, all from local all the way to North Carolina. So
Wow.
It's a wide range.
61
applicants for our IT supports position. That's not because of me. I didn't push the button.
Yep.
So I think that is all I had.
All right, Kathy. Okay. Tina.
So I just wanted to review a few things and let you know what I'm doing right now. We're just completing our Valentine's display in the plaza, and we'll have another 4-leaf clover coming up for St. Patrick's Day. And we kind of want to perpetuate that during the year so people can come down and get their photos taken and celebrate the city. And I wanted to also let you know that, regarding having someone kind of as a spokesperson for like the city when you guys want to make a comment or, answer a community concern. Part of the challenge, I think, is that, you can have someone doing that, but you have no control over how it's reported. So that is one of the things that's been, a struggle for us, is that oftentimes we find that the media isn't accurate, clear, and omits things. Like we had a letter this week from 2 people that said, oh, well, the paper we never heard about this or that. And it's not because we don't talk about it in council or put it on our websites or what have you, but it's just that it's not reported. So that's a challenge that I think we have that we're going to try to be addressing with discovercolumbiacounty.com by adding a new tab that's going to be hot topics and immediate concerns. So we're going to be promoting that when people have questions that they want answered, that we know they want an answer right now. They don't want to wait a day. They don't even want to wait 24 hours. We're going to be able to write responses and put them on that site so that they can immediately get feedback from council members or city departments or even emergency services if it's necessary.
My only concern is that if we start and we open that door, then when we don't have the availability for a specific staff person to comment, because it's impossible to keep up on every comment. That's why I don't do it.
Right.
I won't. I'll even get tagged and stuff, and I don't do it.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is misleading and misinformed people.
Right.
And if they really have that concern, they can email me, or they can call me, or they can come down and talk to my administrator, is what I prefer them to do.
Right.
Or actually meet Becky at our front desk, and she can more than likely answer their question for them.
Right.
They don't need to meet with our administrator. But, yeah, so I don't know about that, because you can spend a lot of time.
Well, I mean, just like the utility questions that came up in the last couple of weeks, if we had a place that we could send people to that said, this is the reason for this is what's going to happen. And it's just a short, concise, from the person that actually has the information and the facts. That's part of, people overreacting, I think, is that they don't really know the facts and they don't have enough information, and then they just knee-jerk react. Where we could possibly have a statement that, or information available to them immediately, and say, go here and read this, and then if you still have questions, here's a person that you could contact or get information from. So more of an information location than, relying on somebody that doesn't really have the information to
If that's something you
convey
want to
it.
take on a little bit, like you already kind of are.
Yeah.
I've noticed. You're more than welcome to do that, but I'm not going to hold the staff.
No, but I mean, sometimes they want to respond, and I'll be here, and they'll be like, oh, I wish I could tell them this. And I'll be like, oh, well, actually, you can't. Go ahead and do that. And it just might solve a lot of issues that come up, and immediately we can have a response. The other thing I'm doing is I'm having my next merchants meeting in March, and I think I'll probably have it at the end of the month, since the chamber dinner is like on the 21st, mid-month. The other thing I'm working on is the Salmon Derby, and I'm working on that with the St. Helens Marina, and they have agreed to be the official weigh-in station, so that's cool because it'll be right on the river. And we're getting sponsors and vendors signed up for 13 Nights on the River, which is, the schedule is completed. I'll be releasing that this week. And having the visitor center at the chamber building is something that I personally have taken on through E2C, and paying the person to work at the chamber on the weekends. And we're going to get a new sign made so that people know that we actually are there, so that the visitor center, because right now it just says Chamber of Commerce, it doesn't say that there's a visitor center. And according to Travel Oregon, when you have a moniker of an actual visitor center, there is like an uptick in people that come and stay in your community just because you have a visitor center. So we'll see if that's true. But that's what they say. And the other thing that I'm also working on is I'm volunteering to do the dessert coordination portion for the chamber VIP awards ceremony. And I'll be posting the recreation guide as soon as Matt gets it for everything. Lots of people are sending us information for Discover Columbia County, so that's good. We're doing that. I've got a number of other projects I'm working on, but those are the ones that maybe you have questions or comments on.
I have one question on when's your first meeting for Halloween Town? Because that's the most controversial one of them all. That seems to always.
I know, and then they don't show up.
I know, and you literally did start in April last year.
Yeah.
Is that what you're planning?
Well, I've already had meetings with individuals
Okay.
that have new ideas that they're bringing me.
But there'll be like some type.
Oh, yeah. We have a whole month-long thing where anyone can email me anytime, and then I'm available to meet with them personally or individually. A lot of the groups now are we're all on the same page. We know what our roles are within the whole program because we work with so many nonprofit groups. So, really,
you'll put out something on
Oh,
your page
yeah.
that hey, it's getting, getting close to start planning because this is a big event. all that,
Yes, yes, yes,
Give
yes.
them plenty of notice, so we just.
Oh, yeah,
it'll come down to the
anytime,
wire.
actually.
It'll come down
Yeah.
to right before, and somebody's gonna complain that we did not do enough. Like it always happens.
Yeah.
Been here 3 Octobers now. Right?
So you
Yeah.
get to see.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm available 99.9% of the time.
Okay.
And I'm working, as far as Halloween goes, we're working on some new activities too on Sand Island. So that's kind of exciting.
Any questions for Tina?
As part of my report, I was going to comment on, our social media numbers through Discover Columbia County and Spirit of Halloween Town and those, and we're comparing them to Travel Oregon, Travel Oregon representing the state, and the city's numbers representing the city compared to the state, and doing the expansion of those numbers, and it's really pretty impressive how much social media traffic we have compared to the entire state of Oregon. And
yes, we'll have a finalized presentation soon, very soon. One of our little projects.
Thanks, Tina.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
So we talked about coming around the table and you run out of things to talk about because everybody's already talked about them. That's usually part of my report, is that a lot of things have passed over. Through the Judge Lindgren talking about the updating the court job description, that's in progress. We have a draft circulating internally that will go out for a legal review before it comes to you to take a look at. That's on a path towards refilling that position in the courts, getting them back operating efficiently and effectively. The tours, similarly with the tourism, we're trying to working together to kind of clean that contract up. I will come back at you with the updated council goals and the governing, or the council rules anyway. Maybe take a stab at the governing policy. I'm not sure. And yeah, there's just a lot of work out there.
Yep.
And,
all right, good job.
Very busy.
Thanks, John. All right, Councilor Locke.
The only thing I got is the partners are here from ACSP in town, and so I talked them into coming and giving a report tonight at our evening meeting. So that's all I got.
All right. Councilor Carlson?
Just wanted to thank the Chronicle for doing such a nice write-up on the Valentine's Day volunteer effort. I just was out there helping the girls do their thing around town. It was just very cool that it was community-wide, and it was all volunteers in the dark, and they're like, we don't want anybody to know it's us. We want it to be top secret. It's like, maybe we should make the nice things public instead of top secret. So I had shot something off to Julie, and she wrote a really nice piece and took a lot of photographs. And it's just nice when we can, create those bridges and lift our community up in a very positive way with all the negativity that's been out there. And it's just nice when we can join together for that common good.
Yep.
And I just wanted to put a shout out to the Chronicle and thank them for that coverage. That's all I have.
Thanks. Councilor Topaz. Okay. Council President Morton.
Yeah, you know that I've been trying to get an attorney together so that we could have the Sand Island issue resolved, and I need to know where that's at. So, John, could you help me out? I mean, this has been almost going on 2 years now, and that's where the attorney question came up, because there was some people in town said, we could have got that done, a year ago. So I'd like to know where that is right now.
So it's been in their court for the past almost 3 weeks. His counsel went out of town, they came back, or they've talked to each other. It's just like dot
Their counsel is out of town. The other guy got sick and went crazy and did this and whatever, and then we're left with this. We're left with the same answer all the time. Well, it's in their court.
No, it's not. They've talked now. They've communicated. It's he's back on it. So.
Let me do an update on the. First of all, a thank you to Chief of Police. He's just left on an emergency, and Public Works again. I just want to thank you for response and all the flood. Thank you so much. Now I want to talk about parks. There was a motion by Jacob Woodruff, motion, and John Brewington, second. The commission recommended they require groups of more than 100 need to rent both gazebos. It was unanimous. So that if we have a group over at McCormick Park, over 100, they're suggesting, and in here it says recommend. They are recommending to the council that we that they rent both gazebos. If there's one gazebo over there, there's the new gazebo that
'Cause they
happened
use
at
it
McCormick
anyway.
Park. That if there's going to be over 100 people, that they rent both of them out, and then that would be for an additional fee. Upon Howard Blumenthal's motion and John Brewington's second, the commission recommends to the council that they have that they make a rental fee on a new larger gazebo at $60. Unanimous. Everyone on the commission said yes. Motion upon Howard Blumenthal's motion and John Brewington's second, the commission recommends that the Veterans Memorial Gazebo be called Area 2. And that was pretty much what the Parks Commission has recommended to the council. If the council can pass that on to staff with head nods or whatever, or if we need to put it on the agenda, we never have before. We've just kind of like, that's, I don't know if we've decided that or not, but that's what they recommend. So we brought it up and said, what are the fees going to be?
I had a clarifying question because about 100 people at the park, at McCormick Park. So 100 people, I don't understand park reservations. So let me just say this. So if somebody's having a baseball tournament and they're over at the baseball diamond and they project that 100 people will come to that baseball thing, they don't have to rent the gazebos because they're doing baseball.
No, if it's people who are wanting to rent a gazebo and they do it,
They're in the area.
and they rent the gazebo by the memorial, Veterans Memorial. So if they are expecting 150 or 200 people or whatever, anything over 100, they should rent both of those.
Okay, I'm clarifying
because
now.
it's a big space.
Yeah,
I'm
we're
clarifying
just
now.
talking about the two gazebos that are really close together, because if there's 100 people and they're just renting one, and somebody else tries to rent the other one, and they got 10 people, there's such an overflow that.
No, I was thinking about I didn't fully understand that. I was thinking about all the things that happen at the park that involve 100 people, but they're not using the gazebos at all.
So that was Parks' recommendation. I don't know if we need to hear those monetary amounts. I would like to hand that over to the staff to figure it out, and they know what those recommendations are from the Parks Commission. If we want to weigh in on that, we certainly can. And I think it's fine. I think it was well researched by them, and that's what they came up with.
Something I would have never thought of. So that's what they do. Recommended. So
that's my report. My
recommendation, recommended, whatever. Yes. So you're talking the new one that we just are finishing up, and the other one, and the one across the street though will still be separate.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Making sure.
So process-wise, that would be an amendment to the fee schedule. Good.
Yep. Okay. So, again, the flooding going on was amazing how fast that water came on. I think I went down to our wastewater treatment facility. I think they figured they had a little over 3 inches in 12 hours. Does that sound about right?
Closer to 4.
Closer to 4 inches.
Well, 3 and 12, but about 4 and 24.
Yeah, 4 and 24. So that's pretty impressive. And it was nice seeing that hopper out front, and I went over and talked to Public Works. Neil was there, answering phones and directing guys as he got the phone calls, and we seen the sandbagger over there, and the mechanics came over and actually showed me the ins and outs of it, and because there was probably about 30 people sandbagging. And I want to say thank you to all the volunteers that did come out and help out. It was nice to see a community step up and come together, and we were served Dutch Brothers and sandwiches, and it was
gotta go back.
it was pretty awesome. It was a tragic deal because it was people's houses, but it was pretty awesome to see the manpower that showed up. So yeah, the water bill. You know, I've seen that the papers put it out. Basically, and I think Matt did go on the radio. I was busy that day, or I would have been on the radio as well. With the due to Armstrong closing down of last year, our water and sewer and storm took a hit. And we budgeted that tight that we don't want to raise your water or sewer or storm anymore. And it's a utility bill. It's not just water. It's all three. That we really budgeted that tight that future projects were not going to happen if we did not increase your rates. And we absolutely stretched it out as little as we could to keep us safe for the next couple of years. And it ended up being a 2.3% increase. So if it was $100, it was $102.30. If that helps anybody out there. And it was talked about in multiple meetings. So I just want to state that for the record, that I appreciate staff giving it to me straight and telling me how it's going to go, and then we don't have to in a year and a half from now say we have to raise our rates by how much to make ends meet. And other cities are going to be doing that in the near future. They're going to be probably increasing their rates dramatically, so stay tuned. We'll see how much reporting they get. I just know that we do all we can do to try to accommodate our citizens within our ways and means. We're not out spending money foolishly like I was reading. And even, you know, it was a hard decision to make for this entire council. I know that. But we have to do it. We have to be fiscally responsible. So, and that includes raising rates when we need to.
No, it's particularly
Go ahead.
Particularly difficult when you have a single customer that represents nearly 20% of when your funds leave the community and put a stress on the rates that much. I mean, industry does subsidize residential rates, has in the past, and when those go away, it makes it that much more difficult. And we're having growth. The utilities are doing well, but having those stressors really, it makes it difficult. So,
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, Councilor Carlson, you had to go back? No?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, so now we're going to, if anybody else got anything else? Nope. Okay, we're going to adjourn. We're getting ready to go into executive session here in a minute. So
If need be.
I don't think we need to.